racism thing is racism is not funny, obviously. It's not funny, but it's absurd. It is absurd. And there's a writing by Ben Franklin, like in the late 1700s or something. And he was saying that he thought that the United States of America should be a nation for white people. He was an abolitionist, but like he thought that this is a country, this is a white country. And what's fascinating is reading who Ben Franklin considered to be white. Like it is incredible. Like he didn't consider Irish people to be white, obviously, Italian people to be white, Swedish people, he didn't consider them white. Pretty much the only people he considered white were English people and a subset of German people. And he only included the German people because the British people descended from the Anglo-Saxons who were from Germany, so he kind of had to. Like he was kind of mapped into a corner there. But I've always found it funny as a kid when I watch these old movies and white people would be racist against other white people. Like you'd see a movie that's like, yeah, I'm an Irish guy and I'm dating a Polish girl and my mom, she's not going to go for that. I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, that's another white person. And it's funny. Like the funny thing to us is that they didn't consider Irish people white, but like the whitest people on planet Earth. They didn't consider Irish people white, which is really funny. Huh?
Yes, you're exactly right. The whitest people on earth are like, no, you can't trust
those. Sorry.
They're the monsters.
I know. Yeah. Like, I lose you in a snowstorm, but you are not white enough. I'm sorry. And it was there was shit. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So now some people I do understand why they think it's like I get not. Well, it's like okay, Italian people aren't white. Okay, all right, I get that one. Like that one. All right, I can see why they said that. And which is why I consider Irish people the biggest fucking traitors when it comes to because in the late 1800s and early 1900s, there was like a collective realization, like the Gilded Age and shit, where like the big wigs were making fat stacks and everyone was working 6 days a week for 12 hours for shit pay. And everyone, black, white, or otherwise, realized they were getting screwed over and that rich people were making off a lot of money to make their lives miserable. So that's when you had like a growing socialist movement in the United States, like in the early 1900s. And when people like of all races banded together and said, we're going to fight for things like, a 5-day work week, and we're going to fight for 8 hours a day and fighting for more and more worker rights. And the capitalists decided, okay, this is getting out of hand here. We need to solve a problem. So they offered like ethnic minorities a deal. It's like, hey, Italian people, we're going to consider you white now, as long as the real enemy are black people. And Irish people like, all right, we'll take that deal. And they took it. And so that's really, this is why you don't see well, first off, there's just a higher percentage of black people in the United States than there are in Europe, but like the deep schisms like that, because Europeans actually went more with like the socialist economic movement, but in the United States, we're like, okay, we're going to divide you amongst racial lines and make the enemy is not your boss. The enemy is the black guy who might try to, make more money than you. And it's worked really well. Like racism is absurd, but it works. It works.
Right. Which, it's absurd. Which is why, it's good to have unifying things because, things like religion, because especially in the area of politics and things, I bring this up only to prove the point of we haven't arrived when it comes to, the talk about racism, that, it hasn't just magically gone away.
Yeah.
And most of the time when we're talking about America, we are talking about racism towards black people, but also anti-Semitism hasn't gone away.
No.
Because whenever you think about that, usually you're referencing the Holocaust. However, it is amazing when you give people the size of the window that you give people to have the opportunity to be a racist, if they will take it. Because in any, whatever the case may be, whether it's, the political right, or with their conspiracy theories, or in the cases of when we're talking about currently with Israel and Palestine, and there's the whole, Zionist, anti-Zionist stuff going on. And so there is this opportunity of, you know, disagreeing with the Israeli government and their actions is one thing, but then there is also another group that takes that
Yep.
opportunity with their, like, oh, this is my opportunity
Oh,
to be anti-Semitic. And so within a legit argument of, hey, maybe not everything that the Israeli government is doing is correct here, guys. Maybe they've gone too far. And then there's the, oh, this is my opportunity to say crap
yes.
about Jewish people because and they just take that opportunity. That only just goes to prove how much work still needs to be done when it comes to racism.
God, yeah, we hunger for the racism. We hunger for it. It's like, listen, I I feel you so much with that Zionism statement because yeah, I've been saying for no, like I'm the only one saying this, but it's like, yeah, criticizing the actions of a nation state does not mean you're criticizing an entire ethnic group. That's ridiculous. Like I can criticize Saudi Arabia, it doesn't mean I hate all Muslims. That's insane. So uh it it annoys me so fucking much that you have like these right-wing racists. There's like what I tell you about the Jews, man. I told you, and they're saying, and I
Right.
just got it. I hate it so much. And like you said, they have the opportunity in front of them, they will jump at it, and it's infuriating, man. I hate it.
Right. As long as they have the cover of a
Oh
political stance and they cover it in that, when really what they're doing is just taking the opportunity to be racist.
yeah, they are. It's like it's race is funny to me too because I remember, yeah. So people come in like 5 colors and that's it. There's like 5 colors, but there's dozens of races for some reason. And like you could meet a guy from like, Melanesia or Sri Lanka who looks exactly like me. I'm the only one that's black. They're Asian, like they're Southeast Asian. It's just my favorite example about how race is a social, well, two favorite examples of race is a social construct is one is in Haiti. And in Haiti, before the Haitian Revolution, under French colonization, there were like, so in the United States, you had white, you had black, and then mulatto is what they had in the United States back in the 1800s. In Haiti, there were I forget, there were at least 12, maybe 15 or so racial categories based on how black your ancestry was. Like you were slotted into those categories. And like your rights as a person depended on how black you were. Like, oh, you have a black great great grandparent. All right, well, here's your slot. And they had a name for you. And the other example is Plessy versus Ferguson, the Supreme Court case that gave us separate but equal. And
Mm-hmm.
Homer Plessy was a civil rights activist. I can't remember what state, some state in the South. And he a black man who purposefully sat on a white train car and waited for the cops to come kick him off. And he's like, well, what's the law saying I can't sit here? And it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court says, okay, you can separate black and white train cars, but they have to be equal. Yeah, wink. But the hilarious thing about this is Homer Plessy was 1/8 black. Like if you look at a picture of Homer Plessy, he's a white guy. He has one black great grandparent, and under like United States law, he
Right.
was black. And
Right.
so it's like, okay, this doesn't make any sense at all. And so if you look at uh sorry to drop the news on you guys with this, but white slave owners raped a lot of their slaves, a lot of them, like to the extent that your average at black American United States is 20% white. I'm 20% white. I check my DNA check, and that's not due to recent, recent consensual sexual relationship between white and black. No, that's from like, over a century of white people raping my ancestors. The white people were my ancestors too. But anyway, this guy, so like you had your white slavers, including like presidents, like Thomas Jefferson, famously,
That was the first one that came to mind.
yeah, raped a 14-year-old girl. So he was a child molester too. William Henry Harrison had 6 children with a black slave, which it's rape, by the way. You own the person's property, it's always rape. And he like had to hide them from the public because he didn't want people to know. And Thomas Jefferson, like the children he had with Sally Hemings, he had like 4 of them, I think, and they were slaves too. Like he enslaved his own fucking children. Like that's how depraved the shit was.
Oh.
And by the way, and people like try to argue that, listen, don't try to argue that this wasn't common. Like if you give men ownership of women, what do you think they're going to do? Like we all know what's going to go on here. But this was so commonplace that like you had like mixed race slaves, and they became the house slaves because they were seen as more presentable than, you know, their thick-lipped counterparts, you know, that out in the fields and shit. And so, which, you know, if they were women, that just gave them easier access, you know, to sexually assault them. And you can find pictures in like the 1850s of propaganda that abolitionist propaganda. What they would send out these pictures of slaves who were white, because they had so much white ancestry, they didn't look black at all. And so you'll find pictures of like there's a little black boy and a little white girl. They're both slaves because technically they're both black because the white girl has like a black ancestor from 80 years ago. So technically she's black. And they would use this as propaganda. It's like, we got to free these slaves. Some of them are white. And it worked. I mean, it's unfortunate that it took a lot of that, but it worked. It's fucked up.
I see. They had to go to the, hey, no, guys, we got to rescue the white people.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
The cruelty that's being done to black people isn't enough.
No, yeah.
You gotta be like, oh wow.
Yeah, I'll send you a picture. I'll send you a picture afterward. But like, there's this poster, and it's a little black boy and a little white girl. They're both slaves. Girl is white as fuck, like Michael Jackson's kid's white, and like it's like everyone, and it's like okay, and so that helped turn hearts and minds to the abolition movement more and more. But yeah, it's like. So the idea that, you know, oh, there's these definite lines of demarcation in race, it's completely made up and it's nonsense, but it's still here. It's still here. And I mean, eventually I think we will get past it, and it won't be in our lifetimes or our kids or our kids' kids, but I think eventually human beings will find a way to eradicate it. But it's unfortunate to watch it, you know, explode. And at this time, we should be way over this by now.
Yeah, we should be. And I think it would help, at least for as we were talking about religion and politics, I think it would help in the area of racial relations, if the people who say they believe in the God who died for everyone and loves everyone would love those same people. Mm-hmm. I think that would solve our culture war a lot easier if they remembered that God loves gay people. God died for trans people.
Are we sure? Are we sure? I don't know. I don't know. It's a Greg Locke seems to think otherwise.
Because last as we paraphrased that Bible verse at the top of the podcast about God so loving the world, and as we understand that includes everyone, that includes the people who disagree with you. Mm-hmm. That includes the people that don't see the world that you do, that don't look like you, that don't act like you, that don't love the same way that you do. That's what that, you know, verse that they have in you know, they used to have in football stadiums. That's the God they say that they serve, and yet they don't love the same people that God loves.
No, God.
So I think if they would, I think a lot of the people who have it, and it would solve our culture war if they loved the same people that their God loved. I think it would be a little easier.
A little bit, just a little bit. Well, hey man, thanks for coming on board. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna fumble around my best trying to like edit this shit and process it. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm trying. It's something I've always wanted to do. When I was a little kid, what I really wanted was a radio show. Like as a kid, I've always wanted that. I always thought that would be cool. So the chance that I have the opportunity to do this is very exciting. But I'm in the early stages now, so just, you know, it's I'll look back on this a couple years from now and think it's a shitty. But I'm gonna try to do my best. I promise. My first one can't even post, so you know, we'll see how this goes.
Well, thanks for having me. This is a blast. As somebody who's done a podcast for at least this type of, you know.
What's the name of that podcast, by the way?
Yes, at least my podcast. Okay, I've got to plug 2 podcasts because my friend Kevin will be upset with me. The podcast me and my friend Kevin do is called Podomania. I don't know that one. That one we have competing top 5 lists.
Oh, I don't know that
And
one.
we
Okay.
talk about like TV and movies and things, and we give like our top 5, like, like Christmas movies or top 5, TV shows. So yeah, so Potomania is one that I do with my friend Kevin, and then the one that I've done for I think I want to say like the past 5 years is The Story Is, and that's my podcast.
Yeah, that's one.
Yeah, that was the one you were on that I talked about. I try to talk about events from the past and the present, and then try to have like a personal bent to it, so that I not only tell a story, but if possible, an applicable lesson that this story tells. And I have had you on my show before, looking back at the Christian college experience. So
Yeah.
if folks have enjoyed this episode, I think they'll probably enjoy the 3 episode series that we talked about, as
Yeah.
my own kind of revelation of the kind of comparing my Christian college experience with what other people's experience was and finding the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I neglected to do on this one, like we'll have to do this again. I wanted to have like a segment where we would discuss rules at the college that no one would believe were actually rules. Like it's like we've got to do that next time, because I don't know about you, but in my personal life, I never talk about like where my undergrad. I never talk about it. I was like, oh yeah, I went to school in Wisconsin. Give no details, because
No, yes, never.
because like once you do, like it's you can't possibly relay this information. Yeah, if you wanted to go on a date, you had to sign a piece of paper and bring some. It's like there's no point of reference anyone could have for this shit.
Yes. Oh, please have me back on to talk about
Oh, we
that.
got to do that.
Just the dating life alone, I think, would fill up a podcast.
Oh yeah, yeah. My
The
favorite.
fact that they had chaperones for people who are adults.
Grown ass adults, man. And they had rules about like you could hold hands, but only if you were engaged. Shit like that. It's like I remember being in one of Dr. Oates's classes, and someone asked about the holding hands rule. They're like, okay, how come we can't hold hands? And Dr. Oates is like, well, if you hold hands, that could lead you to doing other things that are sinful. And then I don't remember who said it, but he's like, okay, but couldn't staring into someone's eyes also lead to something sinful? He's like, I guess that's a good point. Yeah, no shit. That's a ridiculous rule. My favorite though, and I would say this there, but we'll have plenty of ammo next time. My favorite one though is the women wearing pants one. That one was like, so women couldn't wear pants, and then except unless they were like bowling or going to something, they had certain events where they were allowed to wear pants, but like for classroom and on campus, they had to be in dresses or skirts, and they could wear shorts if they were playing basketball, but that's it, and and the pants could not be jeans. Like I remember that's the one I was like, what? They couldn't wear jeans. And so I was like, so they have to wear khakis or slacks. They couldn't wear jeans. And so, like the year after I left, like my last year of Maranatha, I remember they had a board that came out with a new rule that says, okay, women can wear jeans now. And I was like, okay, finally. But the jeans could not be blue. That was like, I don't know if they said women can wear jeans, they can't be blue. And people was like, wait a minute, why can't they be blue? And the answer was, well, because, blue jeans were made in the 1800s for, people doing manual labor and working in mines, and it's a symbol of masculinity. So black jeans or gray jeans or, purple jeans are fine. Blue are out of the question. I was like, you guys are not fucking serious. Like, there's no way you think that is a logical, reasonable policy to put in place. I mean, in a long list of others, it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. Wow, my sideburns past my ears even think that's amazing.
Right? Yeah, it was the dumbest one by far, and there were a lot of dumb ones. But anyway, we're gonna save these. We'll save. We'll have another time talk about the rules. That'll be pretty fun. I think we'll have a good time with that. But thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. I'll try to get these out, when I can. And hopefully I do you proud.
No, thank you very much for having me.
All right, peace out.